Hi everyone. Today we are starting with a new unit. The name of the unit is Strategic Leadership and Management. So, the basic concept, as you have understood, strategic leadership and management. There is a leadership, there is a management. So, what you have to understand? You have to understand the basic concepts of leadership and management. Now, if I ask to any layman, what is leadership? They will say a leadership is a quality which a leader possesses. Means a person who has a leadership quality is a leader. Now somebody asks, what is leadership then? Then the question arises, what is leadership? People will say leadership is a quality where people try to follow a specific person, try to follow someone who is a leader, a person who sets examples. Then what is management? A person who manages everything is a good manager, and the concept is management. This is the basic understanding of a layman towards leadership and management. But there is a lot to inside, or there is a depth inside each word of leadership and management. We'll talk about various theories, concepts and models about the leadership. There are various types of leaderships, the concepts of leaderships. So the first concept of a leadership is transformational leadership. What is transformational leadership? Leadership, which it's a theory of leadership where leader works with teams. Means they try to transform their team. They try to work with the teams or followers beyond their immediate self-interest. Means irrespective of whether they are gaining something or not, they try to be with their team so that, or their followers, so that they can achieve the goal, creating, and they try to create a vision for the entire people, the people who are following them. So the first theory is transformational theory of leadership or transformational leadership. It is the kind of leadership where people try to transform their team and followers. The second type of leadership is servant leadership. Servant leadership, what does this mean? Is there any employee in the employee relationship, is there something called servant? It is known as a servant leadership, but the basic philosophy behind that is people who are acting as a leader, who are leader, they believe that if they strive for the people under them, if they work for them as selfless person rather than putting them under their power and control, they will be able to harness more out of them. The servant leaders, they put the needs of their employees first. They focus on their development as an individual. For example of servant leadership is Mother Teresa. Third type of leadership is follower leadership. So there are various concepts of follower leadership. We will talk about each one of them, wherein the followers are trained, they are made experienced, they are imparted knowledge related to a job, and they have to follow that. So there is 4 types of follower leadership. wherein the first one is exemplary leadership, where the followers rank themselves high in both active engagement and independent critical thinking. Means the emphasis of exemplary followers are both on active engagement in the company, in the organization, as well as their independent critical thinking. The second type of followership leadership is conformist leadership, wherein there is a high in active engagement but dependent on, like, they are not very critical thinkers as such. They are uncritical thinkers. They don't do critical thinking. They don't do independent thinking. They are dependent on somebody else for the thinking part. The third one is passive followership, which there is low active engagement and dependent on uncritical thinkers. Means both they are low in active engagement as well as they are dependent on uncritical thinkers. Then comes alienated followership, where there is a highly independent critical thinkers, just opposite but low in engagement. Then comes pragmatist followership, wherein this particular followership style has a moderate level of engagement, not a lower level, not a very high level, moderate level of engagement, but and also a moderate level of critical thinking. So exemplary, conformist, passive, alienated and pragmatist followership. This is type of a followership leadership. In various different chapters we will be doing more we will be elaborately learning about each one of them, but in the different units. There is just a gist to understand the type of leaderships here in this particular context of strategic leadership and management. And then comes a very beautifully drawn leadership, adaptive leadership. It helps individuals and organizations adapt and thrive in the face of challenge and prepare them to take on the process of change. Means in case of adaptive leadership, you try to adapt new things. If something innovation, finding out new processes, trying to adapt what new comes into the way, right? So there has to be a leadership, which is a leadership wherein people are forced to adapt new things. Now one thing is forced to adapt new things, or the other thing is they by nature adapt new things. So in this particular adaptive leadership, leaders, they try that people who are working for their organization adapt the new things seamlessly. Then comes agile leadership. Agile leadership, it's a leadership that strives to remove roadblocks. Means whatever hindrances come in the way of their followers, they try to remove that as soon as possible, so that employees can be more effective and productive. They can work for the organization, for for the goals of the organization, for the vision of the organization. See, the basic aim of all this is to earn good money, to maximize profit, to make name in the society, to make brand your company as a brand. So all these types of leadership, as per the circumstances and situations, they try to bring in such people who can make the vision possible. Agile, the best example of agile leadership is Amazon and Facebook. How? These companies, they follow the agile culture. They provide lessons on empowering team to do their best work and have leaders who lead by example. Means they will set the example in front of their followers. Okay, so this type of leadership is called agile leadership, where the basic aim is to remove the hindrances, the roadblocks in front, which is coming in front of the employees. Then comes leadership member exchange theory. In this theory, team members try to build in good relationship with the manager and have a higher moral and are See, people with a higher moral will be more motivated. If they are more motivated, they will be able to be more productive than those who don't. So the basic emphasis of this theory, leader member exchange theory, is to keep their followers in high moral. This means that managers and the group members can both profit from a healthy relationship. Means if there is a peace, harmony within the team will more concentrate on work rather than solving the disputes. So this is the basic concept of a leader member exchange theory. Then comes the contingency theory of leadership. Means this theory of leadership, it puts forth the idea that the success of leader hinges on the specific situation. Means if the situation comes and the leader is able to meet that emergency, meet that contingent situation, then that person is a good leader, or then that leader is a successful manager or a successful person. Certain factors, they come into play that define whether a particular leader or leadership style will be effective for a given situation or not. So that is why this is more of a situational theory. As you know, the basic aim of organization is profit maximization. Now there is another theory called competition based theory. The notion behind it is business organizations, as you know, the main objective is to maximize long term profit and developing sustainable competitive advantage over their rivalries in external marketplace. So the basic theory of profit maximizing and competition based is like, how do you face your competitors in such a manner that you remain into the market for a longer period of time. And to remain into the market for a longer period of time, you should have two things in hand. First, your revenue generation capacity, and also your sustainability, your extra edge towards your competitors. Means there should be something in you, a USP, unique selling proposition, which is not there your customers. Your competitors. So it has to be, the entire thing is to be managed in competition based theory. Is market is treated as a perfect competition market where there are n numbers of competitors. How beautifully you place yourself amongst the competitors with certain USPs, unique selling propositions, and how beautifully you manage your customers so that your company or organization can earn or maximize long term profits. That is the basic aim of this competition based theory. So the next one is competition based theory of leadership. Then comes resource based theory. It suggests that the resources that are valuable, rare. See, resources which is utilized in an organization cannot be wasted because each resource which you use has a cost behind it. And if the resources are not managed properly, there will be no cost benefit to the organization, and that will definitely hit the profit of the organization. So the resource based theory, it is based on the assumption that resources are valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, means difficult to find their substitute, and that means they are not non-substitutable, and best position in a firm for a long success. Means you have to put your resources in such a way that they are best utilized in a best efficient manner. These strategic resources can provide the foundation to develop firm capabilities and can lead to superior performance. Means the basic concept is right thing, right people. Since the resources are rare and cannot be substitutable, in this particular case, what do you do that? How do you place it? You place it at a right place, right timing, right manner and proposition, so that best outcome can be taken out of those available resources. Then there are few theories, very like agency theory and game theory. In the agency theory, it's totally based on the principle that is used to explain and resolve issues in relationship between principals and agents. So every company is treated as a principal and their stakeholders as a agent. So agency theory is totally based on the building of relationship between a principal and an agent. It is very important to build relationship with your stakeholders. So this agency theory of leadership is totally based on principal and agent relationship. Then comes the games theory, which is branch of applied mathematics. Usually this is a mathematical theory, but I'll tell you how it actually gets applied in real world, in business world. Is a branch of applied mathematics that provides tools for analyzing the situations. Okay, and game theory is used extensively in various forms of collective bargaining and negotiation. So if you go to your buyer, to your supplier, the way this theory is used is to understand the situation, analyze it, and it is used for collective bargaining and negotiation, because this thing is very important for maximizing the profits of the organizations. Okay, so that is why this negotiation and bargaining thing comes into picture. The game theory comes into picture once in the organization bargaining and negotiations are required. Now we will talk about different types of organizations. Apart from the leadership management, how do you use these theories? Okay, is totally dependent upon what type of organization you have. Means you are working with which type of organization. So now the concept which we will talk about is the types of organizations. So there is a classical organization which views an organization. So the first one is, we will talk about the types of organization. Wherein the first type is classical. In this type of organization, the organization is treated as machine, and people are treated, or the employees who are working for the organization is treated as a part of the machine. Means, and if you see, there is a theory, Taylor's theory of motivation. It is based on this concept, where people are treated as machine. Means it is totally replaceable. Employees are totally replaceable as per classical organization. Hire and fire. If you are doing good, perfect, as per the requirement of the organization, you will be kept in the organization. Otherwise, you will be replaced, like you replace part of any other machinery. So this is the classical theory, where people are treated, the employees are treated as a part of the machine. They are not treated as a person. Okay, this approach focuses on centralized authority. Like the machine, their part work with one single brain at the top. Similarly, they will create an organization where there is a centralized authority of thinking, labor specialization and incentive to optimize productivity. Means if you want their people, so they have the thinking that if you want your people to work more, you have to give them money. Means there is no reward called intrinsic reward. Self-esteem, respect, self-actualization needs does not actually comes into picture. As per the classical organization, if you give money to the people, they will work for you irrespective of whatever level or degree of control you put on them. Okay, and this is, as per them, this is the best way to drive the profits of the organization. The next theory is next type of organization is administrative organization, and it is a typical hierarchical arrangement of lines of authority. Administrative organization. I'll use AORG dot for organization. It determines how roles, power and responsibility will work and bringing the entire process into picture. Means how you will define your roles. A person, under him this person, this person, this person. There is another department, this person, under him this person, this person, this person. Now all these people will be given a certain role to work upon, and they will be delegated with certain powers. This type of hierarchy is called administrative organization. Where the organization has this type of hierarchy, it is called administrative organization. Then comes bureaucratic organization. Bureaucratic organization. I think I wrote down a wrong spelling here. It's okay. Bureaucratic organization is a government agency and it's a commercial, heavily enforced chain of command. Means this, as you know, autocratic Hitler, he used to command people, people has to follow them. So it is like enforced chain of command, and they keep people under tight regulations of operating procedures. They don't want people to have their own power, own thinking, own way of doing things. Means a person will tell, okay, you have to do it this thing this particular way, the others have to follow it as it is. Those who don't will not be there in the organization for a longer period of time. Still now in various government sectors and public companies, this type of bureaucratic organization exists. Then comes neoclassical organization. Neoclassical organization. The organization is based on social system and its performance is effective by human efforts. Means this organization takes into consideration that whatever the people who participate in the work of the organization, their efforts will actually bring in performance or non-performance into the organization. Means the organization, it is treated as a social system. Means as a society, a group of people will be either able to perform or not, they will not be able to perform. Totally depends upon the human efforts. They see employees as a human being. Then comes modern organizations. this type of organization that describes organization as open social system that interacts with the rest of the world, means the external environment, political, economical, legal, technological and environmental, means it is interacting with outside the organization. And this theory is also known as systems theory approach. The system theory is an external, see the system, this particular theory is based on external factors that measure the effectiveness based on long term sustainability or growth, means they try to focus on long term sustainability and growth. So these are the different types of organization: classical, administrative, bureaucratic, neoclassical and modern. There is a thin difference between neoclassical and modern organization. There is a hell lot of difference between a bureaucratic organization and administrative organization. And classical organization nowadays does not exist. Maybe very few unknown organization can work on this particular concept of concept. I hope you have understood different types of organizations properly. Then we will come to the concept of organizational behavior. See, all the organization is totally dependent upon the culture of that particular organization. If the culture is good, people will able to sustain there, may be productive, more motivated, and vice versa. Means if the organizational behavior is not up to the mark, the culture will not be up to the mark, and henceforth what will happen? There will be less efficiency followed by non-productive environment. So let's talk about different type of organizational behaviors. The first one is autocratic model of organizational behavior. These are the organizational behavior models. In the autocratic model, organizational behavior is based on power, formal authority and strength, like that of a Napoleon Bonaparte. There is a power, there has to be a formal authority and the strength. Decision making lies with the top authorities and managers, and lower level employees do not have any power to participate in the day to day. So in the decision making, day to day functioning they will do based on whatever instructions are being given to them, but they will not participate in decision making process. The decision making process lies at top management. No one other than top management is required to participate in decision making. This autocratic model still exists in which type of organization? Like construction companies. Where people are less skilled. Unskilled laborers are actually asked to work in the way they are required to work. Then comes custodial models. It seeks to make employees feel as if the boss is caring for their personal needs. Means the word custodial comes from custodian. Means the employer make their employees feel that they are part of the organization. Their boss, their managers are caring for their personal needs, and they bring in benefits as a part of their remuneration, like healthcare, retirement plan, insurance. All these comes under custodial model. The next one is supportive organizational behavior, where manager supports their employees as they work towards established personal goals. They try to understand what are the career goals of the people, the employees under them, the people or their junior colleagues who are working under them. They try to establish their personal goals also apart from the goals of the organization, and they make sure the goals of the organizations are also fulfilled and their personal goals are also fulfilled, such as giving them promotions, giving them good trainings, building a new skill in them. All these comes as a part of supportive organizational behavior. Then comes collegial model, which assumes that organization determine policies, means it's totally policies and procedure based, and they make decisions through the process rather than abruptly coming and doing what a person think, or 2-3 people get together and think, they made their thinking and they passed a decision regarding a certain situation or whatever procedure. If a collegial model is adopted in the organization, which means the decision making also will be based on certain process. It cannot be done at an individual level. People will get together. So there are different committees for different types of decisions. They will get together, they will talk, they will discuss, and then with a common consensus decision making will be done. Although the process is little bit slower, but it is totally based on democratic style, wherein everybody comes into consensus when a decision is being taken. This will have a certain advantage also, although the decision making is slow, but the efficiency of the people towards certain goals will be much higher. Then comes level of influences. What is the level of different influences of in a company? There is an individual level, there is a group level, and there is a organizational level. Individual, group, and organization. Nothing much to explain. Individual means single person. Group, a team of few people, and all the groups put together, all groups put together forming organization. In an organization, now let's come up to level of influences, means what is the level to which you can influence anybody. So this is 3 levels of influences. The first is individual level, second is group level, and third is organizational level. Individual, single; group, a team of people; and organization, all groups and teams and individuals put together forms an organization. The individual level, it includes each individual person within an organization. Each individual person, it is obviously, if you are one person cannot act similar to the other person, so each individual person definitely will act in different manners which affect the group dynamics and the organization as a whole. If there is a lot of happy, so how it comes is, if there is a lot of happy and satisfied individual, the overall environment of the organization will be happier, satisfied and productive one, and vice versa. If there are a lot of negative people and disgruntled individuals in the organization, it will lead to a toxic environment. So it is important for each and every manager to keep this in mind, that each individual who is working under them, what is their way of thinking. That is why when an individual person is recruited in the organization, they go through various interviews. Apart from technical, they are asked to be given, like they have to give HR interviews also, where this particular aspect is taken care, is taken care by the HR people. Means what type of person is he? Is he a team building person, or is he a person who thinks very negative, or a very positive and agile person? So it is built on the concept that if an individual is good, each individual itself is good, the entire organization will be good only. The group level, it includes any groups within an organization. Groups can range in the size from couple of people to the entire big team. Individuals affect a group. Obviously, it's like a pyramid. It's like a pyramid wherein each individual, top, middle layer, bottom layer, will form the organization. So obviously, if suppose this particular group is not working well, there is no meaning of this group and this group. Means top layer, middle layer and lower layer of management. If lower layer of management is not working well, it's not productive, they are not positive in their thinking, obviously the entire group, and suppose there are two people who have such nature, the other three will also get impacted, and in turn they will impact the entire productivity of the organization. At the same time, a group can affect individuals, an organization can affect group. Means there can be both top, bottom up. Means this can influence top people and top people can influence lower ones. Then comes the organization. Organization impacts the individual and group behavior and vice versa. Means the individual and group behavior affect the entire organization. So this is how different influences comes into picture: individual, group and organization as a whole. Then comes, all this is said and done. Means this all is theory, we have understood. People will build in good relationships, people will build a good leadership qualities, everything is there, but still there are challenges which leaders of the organization can face, the managers of the organization can face in terms of building the culture of the organization. You know, the globalization, with the globalization has both positive and negative impact. We'll talk about the challenges here in terms of organizations, leadership and management. The first is globalization. There is a growing interdependence of world's economies on each other. The cultures are getting dependent. So if there is a company which work in 60 countries around the globe, obviously there will be a clash of culture, clash of population, there will be a cross-border trade, exchange of technologies, investment will flow from one country to another country. It has both positive and negative impact. One has to understand how the organization process should be maintained so that globalization gives a positive impact only and not the negative 1. As a result of the globalization, culture has been influenced. So the global leaders hire and govern their organization in a sense that there is equality, diversity. So nowadays very often you will be seen equality and diversity as a part is a value of our organization, our mission of our organization, because if you are your existence is there in the different parts of the world, obviously you have to bring in equality and diversity, otherwise you will not be able to run your organization properly, without disputes, without incidents, and without agitations. Then the next important concept which has come up is artificial intelligence, which is also hindrance to various processes. Artificial intelligence, it's a simulation of human intelligence by machines. Now, in the current context, artificial intelligence sometimes creates a problem, overall problem for leadership and management, because if suppose you bring in artificial intelligence, you definitely have to fire few people or lay off few people from the organization, because the artificial intelligence will simulate human intelligence. Now there is no need of human intelligence to be part of the organization. That is why this particular thing is actually creating a problem in the context of leadership and management. Then comes risk management. Even the bigger the organization, more will be the risk. So there may be few risks which cannot be forego. These type of risks are called, but there are risks which can be seen and can be foregone. So for this, that risk which can be taken care, for that a proper risk management in an organization is required. And the next important point or challenge is employee engagement and retention. Nowadays you must be seeing retention of employee has become key performance indicator for all top and middle layer management, because it has become very difficult for these people for the management to retain their employees. So retention is a very important factor. You have to keep your people satisfied so that they don't leave the organization. That is another bigger challenge because of the globalization, because of so many options are there with regard to the organization, that people can hop at any point of time. If they are not satisfied, they are not motivated, they have lots and lots of option outside the organization. They can leave the organization at any point of time and join the other one. So one has to see that people are taken care with great, this particular thing has to be taken care with great attention. Then comes professional development. We have already talked about it a lot. Professional development of a person is very much required. If they don't find their career growth, they will leave the organization. That is another. So see why professional development is required. If the person is not satisfied from within, if the person is doing the same work every day for a longer period of time, say for 10 years, 20 years, then this work has become monotonous, and that is not good for him also and not for the development of the organizations. The organizations which don't take care of the personal development or career development of their employees, that they don't sustain for a longer period of time. Then you have to keep up with the pace of changes, because of the there a lot of change is coming in. Every organization has to keep itself updated and they have to adapt new changes with the same pace as the technologies or the changes are coming into the organization. Another important change is demographic change, wherein this particular demographic change that influence the growth of the economy, structural productivity growth, living standards, saving rates, consumption and investment. So all these demographic changes is to be taken care while actually forming the policies of the organization. Now last but not the least is expectations of stakeholders. Who all are the stakeholders? There are two types of stakeholders: external and internal stakeholders. External stakeholders are customers, government, society. Internal: owners, employees. Now it is the responsibility of owners, employees and vice versa to take care of the expectations of the people working for the organization or people attached to the organization, shareholders. All of them are the stakeholders of the company who are directly or indirectly connected to the organization, and the expectation is that their needs and interests should be taken care, because there is a perfect competition. If their interest is not taken care, they will move out, they will find their expectations from some other company. So it is very important to take care of the expectations of the stakeholders. Now let's talk about the role of strategic leaders and managers in delivering strategic objectives. So efficient leaders perform the common task in strategy making and executing the process. They develop a strategic vision and mission for the organization. They set goals and objectives for the organization. They craft the strategies, means they make the procedures for the organization, how things can be achieved. They execute it, and then they try to understand whatever they have made or executed as a process and policies, they are able to get maximum out of it or not. So that is the last part of it, is evaluating the overall performance. As you know, leadership is a quality of a good entrepreneur. There are people who are not an entrepreneur but they are entrepreneurs, means within the organization, head of the department, senior managers, they, although they are not entrepreneurs, they are not the owners of the organization, but they are owner of their own department. They are owner of their own people under them. So such people are called entrepreneurs, and they try to bring in the most refined processes for the organization. Another good important expectation from a leader is he should be a visionary, that ensures that whatever vision of the organization is built, it becomes the reality. Means the thing should be planned in such a beautiful manner that seamlessly they are able to achieve their visions. This can happen only by stating clear goals, outlining strategic plans for achieving those goals, and equipping and empowering each member or a people to take action on those plans, which are the strategies or the procedures which is set for the entire organization at team and individual levels. A leader is supposed to be a good financial manager also, means he should always be able to balance the cost with the benefits of the organization, and this can be done only if that person is able to foresee the coming future, what is about to come in the near future, and with the help of his foreseeing quality he will be able to create the future for the organization. Obviously this can happen only when this person as a leader knows the external environment, means knows the external forces which are interacting with the organization, like political force, economical force, environmental, legal, technological. So if the leader has a good knowledge about each of these forces and how it is practically working for the organization, they will be able to assess the entire external and internal environment in a very well, and that would be able, with that they will be able to achieve the vision for the organization and deliver a sustainable business model for a longer period of time. With this we have completed learning outcome A. Thank you so much.